Hey everyone, welcome to another live stream session with Showbie. My name's Abdul Chauhan. I'm the VP of Learning here at Showbie, and I am absolutely delighted and thrilled to welcome our very own Kate Biel, who is a learning specialist at Showbie. Kate, welcome to the live stream. Great to have you with us. Oh, and
I know I've told you this a million times. Oh, are we back now?
Yeah. You're back. We're back.
Okay, perfect.
It's because we're so far away. I'm based in the UK. You're in the US, in Texas, right? Maybe
Yes.
that's why. But look, absolutely wonderful to have you on the session. And I've been kind of looking forward to this because we've never really had a learning specialist from Showbie go on a live stream with us. So this is kind of the first, if you want. So I'm kind of really looking forward to chatting to you. So, okay, let's just start off. Tell us a little bit about yourself, right? We're going to go into the learning specialist bit, but tell me who you are, what was your background, where did you come from, and so on. I think there's a lot of teachers out there that will be really interested to know what is a learning specialist at Showbie, and what kind of background do you kind of bring to the team?
Sure. Yeah. So I am based here in Texas. I've been in Texas all of my entire life, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I just kind of grew up kind of just knowing that I would be a teacher, not really having this kind of enlightening, like the sun shone down, and that's the moment when I knew I was going to be a teacher. Like I just kind of always knew. So I didn't really know what I wanted to teach, but I ended up being moderately good at music, and I decided to go into being into school to be a music teacher, and
Right.
that did not work out. But that was where I met my husband, who is a music teacher at the school that I actually just left. And I took a couple of years off after college to kind of find myself and figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And then a spot opened up to teach math at my school, and I did not do so good in math. So it was very surprising to all of my loved ones who were like, "What, you're going to be teaching math?" And but yeah, I did. So I started teaching math at Heritage Middle School here in Lubbock, Texas, in Friendship ISD. And I truly, honestly loved every single moment of it. I loved every single person that I worked with.
Wow.
I had incredible administration on the campus level, and I miss them every day. But I think that they really kind of helped form me into who I am today. And so that's just kind of in a nutshell how I became a teacher. And then, as with so many other teacher stories, COVID hit. And,
Yes.
it
Yeah.
was a very, very difficult year last year. And from what I understand, this is an even more challenging year. But I ended up getting my master's degree and decided to kind of not step away from the classroom, but I wasn't really wanting to be out. Well, I wanted to be out of the classroom, but not so much away from the classroom, because I truly love working with teachers and kids. And but it just got to be a little too much.
And you know what? We're gonna explore that a little bit more because I think like when I speak to a lot of teachers on a day-to-day basis, and from my own experience as well, quite often the move from being within the classroom to outside the classroom or doing something slightly different can be a little bit daunting. Yeah, and we'll chat about that in a minute. But what I find really interesting, and this is kind of like this is what gives away that you're the type of teacher that you are, right? Because and this is for the audience that's kind of listening. Kate had to give me like a little bit of her bio and what background she's come from and all of that, right? And in it, there was the fact that she was awarded Teacher of the Year 2018 and 19, and she's put like a little side note on the side. Hey, please, can we take this out? I know I put it in my bio, but sounded like a little bit of braggadocious. I love that word. But wow, that's and this is the thing, right? Teachers are are pretty amazing at stuff. They just don't like a lot of praise. They kind of, think, don't want anybody to know, and so on. But wow, that's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing. 2018 and 19 being awarded Teacher of the Year. So congratulations for that.
Oh, well, thanks.
Go on. You're gonna tell me a story or something around that.
Well, I mean, I was nominated by the staff at our school, and they, like I said, are just a tremendous group of people, and I love them and will always love them dearly. And you can only do so much. And I had such amazing support from the people around me and from my administration on the campus level. And it just really inspired me to, and I had a lot of great people to look up to. Like, I don't have a clue what I'm doing. Like, I did not do very good at math when I was in 6th grade. So I was really looking to a whole bunch of other people to kind of steer me in the right direction. So I just really kind of won the lottery with that, and such
amazing.
Great people that I could work with. So
that's amazing. That's amazing. So tell me, like, my understanding is that as far as Showbie was concerned, that was something that you were already using in your school even before you kind of became a learning specialist with Showbie, which we'll explore in a minute. So tell me about that. How did you come across that? And, what were you doing with Showbie and so on? Tell us a little bit about how you came across that.
Right, sure. So, your first couple of weeks as a brand new teacher, you just kind of try to do what everybody else is doing because you're flying by the seat of your pants. And so the teachers that I was teaching with, they were all on this paper notebook kind of system. And that was how they kind of had their classroom environment set up. And so I was like, okay, fine, I'll do that. That sounds great, whatever. But we were given, as a department, a math department, we were given a class set of iPads in this initial rollout of iPads within our classrooms. And I don't know if I just made this up in my head or if somebody actually told me this, but I think I was told that if I don't use my iPads in my classroom, they're going to take them away from me. They are going to take them away from me. And so I was like, I need to figure out better ways to use my iPad rather than just having them play Prodigy or go on Math 6 games all the time. I need to figure out how to do something more. And so I just started looking into, I literally Googled paperless classroom app for my iPad, and several things popped up, but really honestly, Showbie was the one that spoke to me the most because in looking into it, it just looked so intuitive and figure outable and easy for my students to use and easy for me to implement. Like, I already had all the stuff. I just needed a good way to distribute it to my kids rather than having to walk literally across the campus to the one copy machine that may or may not be working at the time. And, and then also what they don't tell you is that 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper do not fit the composition notebooks. So you have to figure out how to print them like 2 to a page and then chop them all up. But oh my God, it just gives me the heebie-jeebies just thinking about it. And so I was like, I don't want to deal with that anymore. I literally don't want to deal with that anymore. And I can only imagine how much money I'm going to be saving my campus by not having to use all these papers. And so I went to my 6th grade math department and I was like, hey, there's this Showbie thing, and I think I'm going to try it. And one teacher was like, nah, I'm not really comfortable. I've been doing this paper notebook thing for several years. I'm just going to stick with this. But the other new teacher that was teaching with me, Holly, she was like, actually, that sounds kind of cool. So we started using it, and then it just kind of evolved. Like, then the rest of the math department started using it, and we saw that our kids were really, really having a good time using it. And it was just an easy transition from grade to grade. Like, they didn't have to figure out how to use Showbie in math because they've been using it since they were 6th graders. So
I think that's like a consistent theme that I've seen. I mean, I remember many years ago in my own school, we were using this, and it was a similar kind of discovery around the application of, workflow. If we are in an environment where every student has access to a device, how do I submit my work? How does teacher give me feedback, and so on? And establishing that workflow was actually quite key, and Showbie played a crucial role in making that happen, to the point where it became invisible at one point. Nobody really spoke about Showbie because it was just like tables and chairs in the room. That's what we used. But people did have a lot more discussions on learning possibilities and all that kind of stuff, and so on. So I think that's definitely something that I kind of see time and again, as I kind of work with different schools and different organizations as well. So, okay, kind of moving on, right? Tell me about your kind of transition, right? You're a teacher. You kind of take on this learning specialist role. So before we talk about the role itself, what was that like? That must be conflicting in many ways, like you're moving from, like a public sector kind of environment into a corporate environment, like what, and, leaving the classroom potentially, like what went through your mind? How did you feel, and so on? Tell us a little bit about that transition.
Right. And I think I think a lot of teachers now kind of are going through the silent struggle here. I loved my kids and my fellow teachers and I still do so much. It was terrible. It was horrific. Just the idea of moving from something that I was so comfortable in and that I love doing so much to something that I had no clue about anything. Like I didn't even really know what a learning specialist did, or quite honestly, really what kind of went on behind the scenes. And so after I got my master's degree, I was like preparing myself to kind of be in charge of corporate trainings and setting up these slide decks to do, professional development that nobody wants to participate in. And I was kind of dreading it. And, it just didn't have the same kind of heart, and didn't necessarily bring me as much joy that I think teaching did. So then when I saw the job posting on Showbie, it was literally like the stars just all aligned, because everything that in the job posting, it was like, I kind of already do that on my campus. So I just being able to step out of the classroom, but not away from classrooms. Like I said, it's really been a blessing, because I do get to talk to teachers in the classroom still, and it fills my teacher heart.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of perfect point at which you can kind of tell us a little bit about what is a learning specialist. What do you do? What's your role? There might be kind of similar names in other organizations, but I know Showbie is invested very heavily in teachers as learning specialists. So all our learning specialists are classroom teachers, or have been classroom teachers. So for those that might be listening, or that might be watching this in the future, that don't know what a learning specialist is, tell us, what is a learning specialist?
Sure. So basically, my day-to-day looks like providing kind of onboarding trainings to teachers and departments that are new to the Showbie or Socrative platform, and just kind of showing them all the cool things that they can do with Showbie and Socrative within their already established classroom. Like, they've already done all the hard work. This is just an easy way for you to give your kids all the stuff. And so that's a big bulk of what I do, showing teachers how to use it. Also exposing potential new teachers to how to use Showbie and Socrative. And so and not just teachers, we actually do a lot of corporate accounts as well. So looking into some specific corporate accounts and how they can use Showbie for their trainers can use Showbie to kind of distribute information to any type of students that they have. So that's really what I do. And I truly love every moment of it. I love every time I get to be in a meeting with a group of teachers, or, Zoom meeting or whatever, but I love it because it feels like I haven't really left. And so that's pretty much in a nutshell what I do.
That's wonderful. And like, do you have a certain focus, like, where your teachers, are they from a certain region, certain place, like, is there a specific focus for yourself?
I am mostly working with teachers in the U.S. And I know specifically targeting California, Texas, and Florida. Those are kind of the big states, but honestly, everywhere. I mean, I've talked to teachers in New York, in Kentucky, in Maine. I mean, everywhere, and it's always just very refreshing, to also kind of hear the perspective of teachers that are not in Texas and have, kind of different things going on. And, we're not all just one
Yeah.
cookie cutter type position.
Yeah, I think that's kind of quite key. So, can you share with us some like potential stories, examples where as a learning specialist, you've made a difference for that school, or maybe from for the student's perspective, what's that impact been like, and so on.
Sure. I mean, if you don't mind, I could bring my own experience into this, and
Absolutely, absolutely.
because that's really where I saw a
Yeah,
tremendous amount of growth. Because once I started using these sort of platforms, it it freed up so much time, so much instructional time. Like it gave me so much time added on to the beginning and the end of every single lesson, which even if it's just 3 minutes sandwiched on the end, that adds up so much. And those 3 minutes, I mean, we're just grasping at straws during those 3 minutes. So I got so much instructional time. I also got personal time as well because I wasn't taking my work home with me, and I could live outside of my school in my classroom. But another thing that just kind of happened naturally was that my students, I had more engagement and less behavior problems because my classroom was so structured and they were so in tune with how they were supposed to be using their devices and their learning experiences through Showbie. I truly, truly believe that Showbie and Socrative were the reasons why I really didn't have behavior issues, because these were the expectations. And because Showbie and Socrative were so easy, there was none of this, "Oh, I don't know how to do this" kind of
yeah.
thing. They were, I mean, it was just so intuitive, even for preteens.
So for those people that might not know what Socrative is, I think Showbie we've established is like a workflow solution. Tell us a little bit about your kind of Socrative um, approach. Like like what is that for for those that might not know what Socrative is? What is it? How did you use it? How did you use it to benefit your own teaching and learning?
Yeah, absolutely. So Socrative is kind of under the Showbie umbrella. We acquired Socrative a number of years ago. And when that happened, I was so excited because I was still in the classroom. And those were really the only two applications that I used religiously. And so, but with Socrative, that's our assessment tool that we use to do any types of assessment, multiple choice, true, false, short answer. Um, and honestly, I used Socrative the way that my workflow was every Friday. Students were given their homework in Showbie on Fridays, and it was due the next Friday. And that same day, we would do a homework check in Socrative where they would go in and do a quiz on what was on their homework. And I mean, it was just super quick, super easy, very routine. And once Showbie and Socrative kind of merged together, and I could implement both all directly within the Showbie
Yeah,
platform. Oh
yeah.
my gosh, absolutely life changing. So it was
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah, I do remember when that happened. It was kind of really, really quite powerful because you could actually like all that reporting stuff, like the fact that the reports went to students like automatically, that
Yes.
was actually really quite powerful. And for those schools that had enabled like the parental engagement aspect and the fact that parents could see that, again,
Mhm.
that just added even more value to that whole kind of learning experience. That transparency was kind of being quite powerful for schools to
Yes.
be able to kind of do that.
And it eliminates a lot of unnecessary emailing back and forth where the parents are like,
Mm.
what are you doing in your classroom?
Mm.
I'm doing
I
this on
remember
the Zoom.
doing a, I remember doing a trial some time back. This is before I joined Showbie and so on with the school. It was like an impact trial. I said, look, try it out and see what you think. And actually, all the teachers that were involved in that particular trial, they all said that there was like a 70% reduction in printing. Now, we weren't even looking at printing. There was no conversation around not printing or anything like that. We were actually looking at, you know, the student engagement and the ability for teachers to give verbal feedback and voice feedback. So that's the bit that we were really kind of interested in to see, will children close the feedback loop if it's really easy to respond to the teacher's comments and so on. That's the area what we were looking at. But one of the things that kind of came out literally within the first 2 weeks was that, hey, I'm like, and I don't know whether you have this, but in the UK, a lot of our schools and the printing machines, the copying machines, teachers have codes. So you
Oh,
put your code in and then you print. So then it can log how much printing you do. And it would kind of know, what it's assigned and how much your department is printing and so on. But the teachers that were involved, there was like literally a 70% reduction. So it's not about becoming paperless as such, but actually just the natural reduction in printing and that workload around distribution and collection and all of that simply just kind of was reduced significantly. I
totally.
don't know if it's something that you kind of experienced as well.
Yes, life changing. Absolutely. I didn't have to have piles of papers on my desk. Well, for whatever reason, I always seem to have piles of paper on my desk, but they weren't student papers. And like I wasn't having to worry about taking crates literally of papers home
Yeah.
every weekend and then redistributing those papers back at the end of, oh God. Yeah. No, we didn't have like codes, but on our copy machines, but I do know that is a thing,
Yeah,
which
it's
is
a thing.
ridiculous.
It's a thing. It's a thing. I went to one school, when was it? Some time ago, and the number of schools that had like a special room for toners, like it's a storeroom just full of copying toner, the ink.
Oh,
You
yes.
get so they have
Yes.
like a storeroom, boxes and boxes of this ink stuff that just kind of gets stored in there, which is quite interesting and funny in some ways as well. But it's one of those. But I think so. My favorite feature, and I'm going to ask you your favorite feature in a moment as well. One of my favorite features in Showbie is the fact that children can still write pen to paper, and then you can scan, upload, and the teacher aspect of feedback and all of that becomes really simple. But the ability just to scan something and upload it, for me, that's kind of amazing. And the whole conversation around pen to paper writing, will my children still be writing, and so on, that's absolutely still possible. I love the way that the traditional meets the digital, and the workflow is kind of added to rather than kind of eliminates one or the other. For me, that's kind of quite a powerful thing, and I kind of see that built into school workflows now, which is pretty powerful. So tell me about your favorite features. What is it? What are your favorite features that you think actually this is pretty cool?
Ooh, well, I think probably my favorite thing as a math teacher, I was really like initially, I was looking for some place for my students to be able to annotate. Like, I want my students to be able to like physically write their notes and show their work and all of that stuff within a platform. And Showbie provided that. So being able to have that pen tool, that pen annotation tool.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and when I first started using Showbie, and I think my teacher friend Holly, if she's watching, she probably remembers this too. When we had Showbie Basic, they just allowed the kids to have just a plain black pen, and it was
yeah.
one size. And so when I finally decided to go pro and do kind of a solo pro, I just kind of did pro on my own. My kids finally got different colors of pens. And oh my gosh, it absolutely blew their minds. They were so excited about the different colors and different sizes of pens. And so I love that, like, there's still that creativity kind of element into it. And
Yeah,
coming from kind of a
yeah.
creative arts background, I love, I do kind of love that kind of thing. And then there was a highlighter that came out where the kids could highlight things. and they had different colors, but it didn't color over the PDF. And oh my gosh, absolutely blew their minds. So I think just seeing the kids get so excited about those little things, I think that's probably my favorite
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. I think it's sometimes just the simplicity of things, right? You don't want people or teachers or even students to you just want them to get the functionality and then the creativity out of the tool rather than learning how to use it and all that kind of stuff and so on. I think one of
Exactly.
the other big ones for me was when the voice note feature, when I first saw that, that was like, wow, the
Yeah.
fact that I can annotate a document with voice suddenly means that the type of activity that I can set students, asking them to explain your working out, tell me what you think of the type of activities that you could set, becomes significantly different. And for me, that was kind of quite powerful. And when I begin to kind of see students responding with voice, that again was a bit of a game changing kind of environment for me. The fact that they're actually speaking. I remember in one school, parents actually commenting on the fact that they could hear the teacher explaining something and therefore they could
Oh
hear,
yeah. Oh,
like that kind of transparency is quite powerful.
it's the little things that you just don't think
Yeah.
about. But yeah, and then like having the kids be able to do voice notes, you probably know just as much as I do, like trying to get these kids to type out their thoughts and their explanations is like, oh my gosh, it's like an act of Congress. So it just does not, if they can just speak words, sometimes that's just so much easier on everybody.
I know it is. And you know what? It's kind of the environment that we live in today, right? People, students are quite happy to kind of like use voice notes or actually record voice or just upload stuff to emojis and stuff like that. Like even things like that. I saw one school, very young children, and their actual feedback policy has emojis in there, right? So happy faces, sad faces, or purple star means something, a red star means something, and so on. For me, that was kind of really quite powerful to be able to kind of see that, and children being able to explain. And I was walking around this school and I ended up speaking to the young children and I actually asked them, what does this red heart mean? And they'll say, well, it means I've done something really good, but there's some improvements that I need to do. And that was the voice note annotation. So on the voice note annotation, they added an emoji,
Oh,
and then
okay.
exactly what that meant. And I just thought, that was so powerful, completely
So
consistent
cool.
across the school, you know.
Oh my gosh. See, these teachers are so amazing and they have such great ideas. Like I would have never thought about that. That's incredible. Wow.
It's just
That's great.
that's is so powerful that being able, and they had it like on posters in all their classrooms. It was in their policy document. It was like officially something there, not just something that one teacher decided to do. It was like done across the school, which I thought was
Everybody.
really quite powerful, because I think that consistency element sometimes is difficult to maintain, but being able to kind of use that across the board is actually quite powerful, quite powerful. So
Absolutely.
I'm kind of, you know what? I've just tapped on my phone and just checked the time that you do, and 28 minutes have gone by. Like that is super quick, and it always
Yeah.
happens when I'm doing these live stream things. I'm always looking at the time. It's like 2 minutes left, and it's kind of over and done with. So, kind of wrapping up. I'm gonna save some questions for you right at the end, right? And you don't know what those questions are going to be, and I'm gonna
Uh-oh.
just get you to give me some rapid fire answers to these questions. But kind of before that, like the schools that you're working with, the states that you're working with at the moment, like what's been the response like, from those schools and the teachers that you're working with, and doing, because one of the things that learning specialists do is trials, right? You also put trials into schools that
Mhm.
schools don't pay for. So tell us a little bit about that.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, we currently have kind of a pilot trial going on with a district in Maine right now, where we actually have a Showbie champion, Stephanie Weber, who is up there doing amazing things with her district, showing them all the incredible things that Showbie can do. Um, but as far as the response goes, I currently am learning that there are a lot more Socrative users than Showbie users in the US, which is fantastic. But from what I understand in all the conversations about Socrative that I'm having with teachers, they're like, now, why do you have Kate@Showbie.com as your email? What's Showbie? Wouldn't it be Kate at Socrative? So I'm like, oh,
Okay.
I mean, that's the umbrella. Like we're the umbrella that Socrative is under, and so that opens up the conversation of Showbie. But they don't really understand. They don't really get the connection there, and I think there is a lot of room for us to talk about Showbie. Definitely to this to the US for sure.
Okay. That's super interesting. Super interesting. Yeah. Right. Well, that kind of brings us to our kind of, I don't know how many questions, maybe 10 questions, 12 questions. And it brings us to the end of our session as well. So are you ready for these questions now, Kate? Yeah.
Yes. I hope it's nothing about like world geography or politics or anything.
No, they're just kind of like quick fire things. It's just going to tell us a little bit about Kate Biel, right? So these are rapid fire questions. There's going to be 13 of them, right, in total. And you've just got to kind of tell us what you think. The first thing that comes into your mind. Ready?
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Texting or talking?
Texting.
Favorite day of the week?
Friday.
Favorite city in the US besides the one you live in?
Granbury, Texas.
Nickname your parents used to call you?
Katie girl.
Last song you downloaded?
Who downloads songs anymore? It's kind of it was the Bluey soundtrack.
Okay. Would you rather be able to speak every language in the world or be able to talk to animals?
Every language in the world.
Favorite holiday?
Christmas.
How long does it take you to get ready?
Now that I work from home, like 15 minutes.
Scale of 1 to 10, 10 being amazing. How good of a driver are you?
8. My husband might have a disagreement, but 8.
Fill in the blank. Taylor Swift is?
Blonde.
At what age do you want to retire?
50.
Invisibility or super strength?
Super strength.
Is it wrong for a vegetarian to eat animal crackers?
No.
Kate, it's been wonderful having you on the session. Lovely to kind of get to know you even more. It's always wonderful to work with you and chat with you as well. But thank you so much for the insight into the life of a learning specialist with Showbie. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Abdul. It's always a pleasure.